Welcome. We believe that listening is the most natural way to learn a foreign language. On this channel we will publish conversations between two people each time on a different topic so that you can improve your English without boring grammatical rules. In order for the brain to absorb the language as much as possible and to automatically think and speak in English, it is recommended to listen to each episode several times at a distance of days. If you find these podcasts useful, we would be grateful if you would subscribe to the channel and like. Enjoy.
All right, let's dive right in. Today we're tackling a topic that's generating a lot of buzz these days: electric mobility.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's talking about electric cars and e-bikes.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
Our listeners are really interested in the environmental impact of all this, so we're going to explore just that.
I think it's great that people are becoming more aware of how their transportation choices affect the planet.
Absolutely. We've got some fascinating research to dig into, focusing specifically on those electric cars and e-bikes.
Right, and by the end of this deep dive, we're hoping to give everyone a clear understanding of why this shift towards electric is so important.
Exactly. So let's get started. I think a lot of people might assume this is just about, fancy new cars.
Yeah, but it's so much bigger than that. It really ties into this global climate crisis we're facing.
Wow. Okay, so how we get around has a serious impact.
It really does. Think about it. The way we move impacts the air we breathe every single day.
That's a powerful way to put it. Okay, so break it down for us. Why is this shift toward electric mobility so crucial for the health of our planet?
Well, one of the biggest benefits, and something we hear a lot about, is the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions.
Right.
You see, those traditional combustion engines, they release carbon dioxide, and as we know, that's a major contributor to global warming.
Yes, CO2 is like public enemy #1 when it comes to climate change.
Exactly. But with electric vehicles, no tailpipe emissions.
So that's a huge difference right there.
It is. And then you've got e-bikes,
Hmm.
especially when charged using renewable energy sources like solar or wind power.
Ah, I see. So e-bikes can further reduce our reliance on those fossil fuels.
Absolutely. They can make a big difference, particularly for shorter trips around town.
Okay, so electric vehicles sound pretty great for the planet.
Yeah.
But what about the batteries? I've heard concerns about the environmental impact of producing those batteries in the first place.
You're right to bring that up. It's a valid concern, and it's something that researchers are really digging into.
Yeah. Is there a trade-off there?
Well, there's definitely an environmental footprint associated with manufacturing EV batteries.
Right.
But here's the thing. Studies are increasingly showing that over their entire lifespan, from production to disposal, EVs still have a significantly lower impact than traditional gas-powered cars.
Okay, so that's reassuring. It's not a perfect solution, but it seems like a step in the right direction.
Right. And the technology keeps improving, and we're learning more about how to make the entire process more sustainable.
That makes sense. So we've talked about the global impact, but what about something a little closer to home? What about the air we breathe every day?
Absolutely. Especially in those traffic-clogged cities.
Yeah, think about all those cars, buses, and trucks just pumping out exhaust fumes.
Exactly. And those combustion engines, they release all sorts of nasty pollutants that we end up breathing in.
And those pollutants have real consequences.
Absolutely. They contribute to a whole host of health issues. You're talking respiratory problems, cardiovascular disease, all sorts of things.
Wow, I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Yeah, but with electric vehicles and e-bikes, you get a breath of fresh air, literally.
Okay, I see what you did there.
By choosing electric, we're not just helping the planet in this grand way, we're also directly improving public health, particularly in those urban areas where air pollution is often at its worst.
It's amazing to think about the potential impact on our cities. Less noise pollution, cleaner air, and maybe even fewer traffic jams. It almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, it does paint a pretty rosy picture, doesn't it?
But it's got to have some downsides, right?
Well, I wouldn't say downsides exactly, but there are definitely challenges.
Like what?
Well, this transition to electric mobility requires some significant changes to our infrastructure.
Right.
We need to think about things like expanding charging networks, particularly for those who don't have the option to charge at home.
Ah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So access to charging stations could be a barrier for some?
It could be,
Yeah.
but there are also a lot of innovative solutions being developed to address those challenges.
Good to know. So speaking of charging, we talked earlier about renewable energy sources. Can you explain a little bit more about how those play into all of this?
Sure. So if you're charging your EV or e-bike with electricity that was generated from fossil fuels, You're still indirectly contributing to those emissions we're trying to avoid.
Right, right.
But if you're able to charge using solar panels on your roof,
Oh, I see.
or maybe tapping into a grid that's primarily powered by wind energy, then you're essentially running on clean energy.
That makes a lot of sense. So choosing renewable energy sources for charging can really maximize the environmental benefits of electric mobility.
Absolutely. And as the grid gets greener, the impact of electric vehicles will only continue to improve.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why
Mhm.
behind electric mobility, but let's get into the specifics here. We've mentioned BEVs a few times.
Yeah.
Can you break down exactly what those are for our listeners who might not be familiar?
Sure. So BEVs stand for battery electric vehicles. Pretty straightforward.
Right.
They run solely on electricity. They have this battery pack that stores the electricity and that powers the motor.
I see.
And the technology has advanced so much. I mean, we're now seeing EVs with ranges of over 300 miles on a single charge.
Wow, 300 miles.
Yeah. And their performance is actually rivaling, even surpassing that of gas-powered vehicles in many cases.
So no more worrying about getting stranded with a dead battery in the middle of nowhere.
That's right. Range anxiety, as they call it, is becoming less and less of an issue.
That's good to hear. So BEVs are clearly making waves, but what about e-bikes?
Oh, yeah. E-bikes are fantastic, especially for shorter trips.
Yeah.
They really do promote an active lifestyle, which is a bonus.
Yeah.
They're incredibly efficient, and they don't add to the traffic congestion that we're seeing in so many cities.
It's true, they're super nimble, so you're zipping through traffic, you're getting some exercise, and you're doing your part for the planet.
Yeah.
What's not to love?
Exactly. And I think as more people choose e-bikes, it encourages cities to invest in better bike infrastructure.
Like dedicated bike lanes and those sorts of things.
Exactly. It makes cycling safer and more convenient. It creates this positive feedback loop.
I love that. It's encouraging to see how these individual choices can have such a ripple effect.
It really is.
So it's not just about switching to electric vehicles. It's about shifting our mindset, thinking about how our transportation choices impact the world around us.
Exactly. Choosing electric mobility, it's about embracing a more sustainable lifestyle.
Right.
It's about, contributing to a healthier planet, not just for us, but for future generations.
Well said. So to wrap things up here, it seems like we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about how electric mobility can help reduce emissions, clean up our air, and even promote healthier lifestyles.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty compelling case for making the switch.
It does, doesn't it? And I think it's important to remember that this technology is constantly evolving. There's so much innovation happening in this space.
Yeah, that's exciting. So to our listeners out there, what final thought would you leave them with?
I think I would just emphasize that the future of transportation is electric.
Oh, I like that.
And it's a really exciting time to be part of this transformative journey.
Well said. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.